welcome to today's podcast. I am excited to be here. Just me today. It's another solo cast where we are going to dive into something called the Perrin Technique. And I'm really looking forward to share about something new I've been learning. And those of you that have been following my journey a little bit on Instagram might know a little bit about what I'm talking about. But I recently certified as a Perrin Technique practitioner. And I thought this would be a good chance to share with you what that is, what is important, and most importantly, my own experience of going through the 12-week program. And we can dive into sometimes this program is longer than 12 weeks. For me, that's what I needed. That's what seemed to work. We're going to talk all about that today. So, what is the Perrin Technique? The Perrin Technique was developed by Dr. Raymond Perrin, an osteopath and a neuroscientist based in the UK. And it first came into prominence in the 1990s as a way of supporting people with chronic fatigue syndrome, um, or also known as ME. Over the years, it's been applied to people with fibromyalgia, post-viral syndromes, and now long COVID, because it works on a very fundamental level of helping the body clear out toxins and metabolic waste. It is a very gentle, hands-on method that looks at how the lymphatic system, we'll dive into that, the glymphatic system, which we'll dive into that, and the craniosacral system and how they all work together. It also talks about how and really takes into account how congestion and blockages in these pathways is what creates issues for illness. So first, I think we need to talk about the lymphatic system. So think of it as the lymphatic system is the body's almost sewer and recycling system. It's a very vast network of vessels that run parallel to your blood vessels. But instead of carrying oxygen and nutrients, the lymphatic system carries waste. Things like old proteins, cellular debris, toxins, and even viruses move through the lymph before being processed and eliminated. And unlike blood, the lymph doesn't have a heart pumping around it. It literally relies on muscle contraction, deep breathing, and certain points of manual stimulation to keep moving. And when lymph gets sluggish, whether it's from illness, stress, even poor posture or trauma, surgery, these wastes can start to build up. And that can lead to swelling, inflammation, and fatigue, and immune system overload. So, for example, somewhere where we hear lymph talked about more places than others is like with breast surgery, because a lot of the lymph is located by the armpits and in the breast tissue. So whether you're doing implants or there's cancer or reductions, when you're going into that part of the body and cutting into that part of body for surgery, you are cutting a lot into that lymph system and creating, unfortunately, a lot of damage. So that said, we know that research shows that when women have breast cancer and they're getting lumpectomies or full breast removals, that a lot of times there can be issues with the lymph after surgery or after cancer. And a lot of that is because of the cutting or what's been happening or the damage or the swelling that's happened into that really busy important part of the lymphatic system that's located in that breast tissue and that armpit. So let's talk about the glymphatic system. So the glymphatic system is a more recent discovery. Really, I want to say even within the last 5 years, we've started learning about the glymphatic system. Scientists only describe it in detail within the last decade. And this is the brain's detox system. And it works primarily during sleep, and most importantly, during that restorative sleep. So you have to be in that deep, deep sleep in order for this detox system to work. So cerebral spinal fluid, which if you've listened to any of my podcasts, I'm a craniosacral therapist. We work a lot with cerebral spinal fluid. That's the fluid that goes around your brain and spinal cord. It creates this very nice cushion, fluidy place for your brain. But cerebrospinal fluid washes through the brain tissue, carrying out waste products, including proteins linked with neurological conditions. So it's kind of like the lymph system, but for the brain. If the glymphatic system isn't working well, the brain can't clean itself properly. Just like how if the lymph system isn't working well, the body can't clean itself properly. If the lymphatic system isn't working, that can show up as brain fog, poor concentration, memory lapses, and kind of a cognitive fatigue that so many people recognize after chronic illness or viral infections or long COVID. So how do the two systems work together? Because we know they do. And this is where it gets really fascinating is the lymphatic and the glymphatic systems are deeply interconnected. Cerebrospinal fluid drains into the lymphatic vessels and lymph eventually clears through the larger ducts in the chest. If one part of that chain is blocked, the whole system gets backed up. So the Perrin Technique is one of the few, I actually don't know of any others, so I'm going to say the only, if I can say that, bodywork approaches that really focuses on restoring the entire circulation from the brain and the spinal cord through the lymph and then out through the body's natural detox pathways. So we're really addressing the whole system. You do craniosacral therapy techniques as part of the Perrin protocol. So the two very, very linked. So why does this matter for things like long COVID? So Dr. Perrin and other practitioners have been applying this work with people struggling after long COVID. Many long COVID symptoms overlap with ME and chronic fatigue, such as fatigue, pain, brain fog, poor sleep, and immune dysfunction. The thinking is that the viral debris and the inflammatory byproducts can linger in the body if the lymphatic and glymphatic flow is compromised. So by restoring drainage, you support the body's ability to process and clear these lingering toxins. In a way, long COVID has shined a light on just how important these detox systems are. It's not just about fighting a virus, it's about how well the body can recover afterward. And the Perrin Techniques gives us a hands-on way to really do that and to really help. So I went through the full program myself, partly because I wanted to understand it from the inside out, and partly because I sensed I had areas of congestion that craniosacral therapy alone wasn't addressing. In 2014, I traveled to India and came home with a virus. It was an undiagnosable virus, very, very similar to Epstein-Barr virus. But every time that I got tested for Epstein-Barr, it was negative. I was tested for cytomegalovirus virus, also negative. I had chest x-rays, I had blood work, I had stool samples. I went through the whole process because I was really, really sick. And at one point, I was sitting in an infectious disease doctor's office, and he just looked at me and said, "Well, we don't know what's wrong with you. Obviously, you have something wrong. Your white blood cell count is high. You're obviously very sick. We don't know what's going on, so we're going to just call this a mystery virus." And this happens to people. And it really, really was very similar to Epstein-Barr in the way that I just had extreme fatigue and exhaustion. I had no reserves, and it took me a full year to recover. And I'm not lying when I say a full year. I remember I went to India in August of 2014. I was really, really sick. I believe it was August, September. Was really, really sick for a month. Couldn't even walk up the stairs at work. I'd have to take an elevator. And I remember that next January, so even more than a year, as in that would have been 2016, I remember I went skiing for a half day. And I came home and had enough energy to make dinner. And I called my husband and I called a good friend who was helping me through this process as an Ayurvedic practitioner in tears, just like, "You guys, I did it. I went skiing. I had energy afterwards. I feel good." And and that took a really long time. And so I do have firsthand experience of what it's like just to be down and out with a virus. And in no way am I comparing myself to something like ME or CFS because those are really, really hard conditions to have. And there's a huge misunderstanding in our society with both chronic fatigue and CFS that basically, like, practitioners used to say, oh, just go exercise. You just need to exercise. You just need to push yourself through this. And what we found with people that truly, truly have those diagnoses, they get worse. They don't get better. They actually crash. And then people kind of don't believe them and they think they're lying or they think that their symptoms are just being made up. And so there's a huge lack of support for these type of conditions. And honestly, it's been since long COVID has come on the scene that we've started to do more research and we've started to look at how do these brain systems work? How does the lymph system work? And how can we support people to detox this from their systems or start to feel better? So I went through the program again. One, because I really wanted to understand it. If I was going to provide this work for other people, I wanted to know what the experience was like. And two, I was like, well, this is interesting. I've had some sort of virus. I don't know what the lingering effects are many, many years later, but I know that I still have some. So let's try it. So I ended up doing trades with another student that was in class. You do a session every week, and then you follow up every night with your own home program. It's really important that if you are interested in this work, the more committed you are, the better results you're going to get. So the home program that you do at night does make a huge difference. And each week, the treatments were very, very gentle, but very, very powerful. There were sessions where I felt lighter and clearer right away. On about week 3, 4, I got sick. That's surprising. I almost felt like I got COVID, almost like COVID was moving out of my system and my body was detoxing COVID from the past insults of that virus, I guess. So the first couple weeks were really, really hard. They were a struggle. Again, I got sick. I felt like my body was purging. I had to stop exercising because I didn't have enough energy to really do both work and exercise. But then over the next couple weeks, maybe about week 6 or 7, I noticed my energy stabilizing. And I wasn't hitting like the same dips or fatigue that I got in the afternoon. My thinking felt a lot sharper. My sleep got better. And I just had an overall sense of better resilience in my body. The other thing I noticed was exercise. And the interesting thing is I couldn't have said before, like, exercise makes me tired. And it doesn't. Exercise is great. I'm not saying don't exercise, but there would be times when I would exercise, go to work, come home, cook dinner, do house things, and I would just be exhausted by the end of the day. What I noticed at the end of my 12 weeks, and especially after the 12 weeks, is that I wasn't tired after exercising. I don't know if I was recovering better or if just in general I had more energy, so I was able to sustain more activity throughout the day. I'm still not really quite sure, but I did notice a shift where I just recovered quicker after exercise. And after these 12 weeks, I've continued to try to do sessions about every other week or once a month. And I've tried to continue to do my home exercise program. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't been on top of it really this last month. Summer happened. The person I was trading with, both of us started traveling. And I do have to say, I had a little tiny bit of a setback. So there is something about this work, about staying consistent with this work, whether it's the home program or getting maintenance treatments, that is really, really important. I also think it's really important to name when I first had the assessment, you're ranked on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 hopefully no one ever is a 0. That pretty much means you're dead. A 10 is like you have vital life force energy. And I scored about a 7. So on the grand scheme of things, a 7's pretty good. We redid the assessment at the end of the 12 weeks, and I had moved up to an 8.5. Someone with ME or long-term chronic pain, or someone with long-term long COVID, they might rank lower, and they might rank into something like the 2s or the 3s. And what that means is that they will likely need more than one 12-week program. We do the program in chunks of 12, and then you reassess and decide, where's my number now from 0 to 10? Time to do another 12-week program. So unfortunately, this process can get pretty pricey and expensive. However, I feel like if you're someone that's sitting in that 2, 3, 4, 5 number where your life is just completely impacted, it's totally worth putting this time in, putting this work in for the progression. And what I've seen other people that took my class who were a 2, a 3, a 4. They're practitioners in this work. And now with dedication and work, they are now 8s and 9s, and their lives are completely transformed, completely. So I do like to name that. And the last thing coming to mind that I found super, super fascinating is for the last 2 years, I've been working with a hair tissue mineral analysis practitioner. And actually, she's going to come on next month. I'm super excited to have her on finally. But there's been a couple parts of my own mineral rebalancing that just haven't shifted. Like my body, I have what's called a calcium shell. Maybe we can dive into this next month. And I've been working with Sana to break that calcium shell. Basically, my body wasn't absorbing calcium. Super fascinating. I had my hair tissue analysis after the 12-week program, and guess what happened? My calcium shell finally broke. My body finally started absorbing calcium. There were some other things that looked really, really good on the test. Now, of course, it'd be easy for me to be like correlation, causation, that whole thing. Oh, it's because of the Perrin program that these numbers finally budged and my mineral tests started looking much, much better. It could also be that I've been working with her for a year and a half, and finally through that work, I just made that shift. It could be because I also decided to start a like yam-based progesterone cream. Maybe that did that. Maybe it was the combination of everything together. But I do think that that's super fascinating that my mineral test looked better, like way, way better after this 12-week process. So if you're curious what this looks like to go through the program, here's what you do. You start with a full assessment. We look at your whole history. The history intake is intense. We look at your pain points. There are physicians, I'm not allowed to diagnose, but physicians can diagnose. There are physicians, and Dr. Perrin is a physician. So a lot of the assessments they're doing are to diagnose you with ME or CSF, or excuse me, CFS. I can't diagnose you. We still like to give you all the assessments. And so we're really looking at points of congestion and really looking at what's going on with the lymphatic flow in your breast tissue. Then we do weekly sessions, which involve the manual techniques, which is the lymphatic drainage. We're looking at spinal mobilization, specifically in your thoracic spine. And we're doing the cranial work. Nothing is forceful. You get the home program. So you're doing that every night before bed between sessions. And like I said, most people commit to a 12-week starting point, and then we reassess and decide if you're going to keep going and what keep going looks like to you. So I'm not really sure to be honest, why I decided to train in this. And sometimes I joke that I took this class for my own health. Like, I just needed to take this class so I could meet the other student and we could start working on each other and we could both have these really great results, because so much of my work is really about supporting mothers and doing somatic and cranial work. But as I've gone through this process myself, I really started to see how much this could support specifically women in preconception, and really working to clear out the toxin pathways so that your body can be at that optimal health for fertility. And of course, we need more research on this. I would love to find studies. They're not out there right now. I looked for them that support fertility and lymphatic flow. I think that would be amazing. So it's also, I shouldn't say one. So the fertility pieces for conception and just setting the groundwork for a healthy pregnancy. You can also do this program when you're pregnant. It might make you feel like shit. If you're already feeling that way, you might not want to do it, but you can detox your body. It's not going to go into the baby because that's why they have the placenta and the umbilical cord, but it's going to, again, help you be more clear and clean. It is not recommended to do this while breastfeeding because the toxins will come out in your breast milk. So anyway, really doing this work, I found it to be very feminine. I was actually very surprised by that. And after sitting with it and going through this process, it made a little more sense to me. It had this very yin feminine energy to it, very watery energy. And that made sense to me because we're working with the lymph. The lymph is a very clear fluid. It's detoxing. What does water do? Detoxes, clear. It did really have this feminine, flowy energy. So again, I didn't have a goal or a reason to really train in this, and my focus is still to continue to support women in the preconception through postpartum. I'd really love to bring this work into that preconception fertility work. How can we help your body be working at the most optimal in those times when you want to get pregnant? How can we decrease your chronic inflammation, your viruses, your fatigue, not only for yourself to increase your fertility, but to lay the groundwork for your baby so that that chronic inflammation and any toxins stuck in your body aren't going into your baby. So that's how I foresee myself using this work and moving forward into this work. I also just really found that after I worked on someone's lymph and did gentle breast massage and spinal movements, that their cranial sacral rhythm was just juicy and beautiful and so it really, really helped the body have better cranial sacral rhythm by working on the lymph first. Totally fascinating. I did not plan for that or expect that. So I'm excited to continue to explore this. I'm excited to continue to explore sessions for myself. And I'm really excited to continue to explore this with people using this in their preconception and pregnancy work, just to see if we can support their bodies and their babies a little bit more. I also really liked how it's this new information. This information is relatively new, like we said, the glymphatic system. And I always love learning new things and staying up to date and truly understanding that relationship to the cerebrospinal fluid and the lymph has made me a better craniosacral therapy practitioner. Last but not least, it also feels very scientific. Like Dr. Perrin is very research-based, very scientific, and it merges this gentle, more somatic, settled body work. And I always feel the most comfortable there in that space when we're combining science with energy and allowing the two to come together. I think that when we can create that bridge of science body with energetic body, not so scientific, that bridge is actually what we need for our healing, for our healing pathways. So that's a window into the Perrin technique, how it works, why it matters for conditions like long COVID, and what my own experience was like. Excuse me. I see this as a bridge between body and brain, between science and healing, and really between like illness and resilience. It's a reminder to me, and I hope to all of you listeners, that our systems are designed to heal. We are made to be healthy, but sometimes we just need a little help and support, especially clearing the pathways. In the show notes below, I will link Dr. Perrin's website. He has all the information. You can do your own home program. All the information is on the website. He wants this information out there. And honestly, after going through this program, I think everyone should go through this program. That's what we keep saying, the students that took the class, is like, everyone just needs to do this. There's just no question. So he puts the he puts the home program on the website for anyone to do. He has books you can buy. His books literally show you how to do the lymph massage. If you're a practitioner, like his information, he's like, here, just have it. Of course, if you're a practitioner and want to become trained, he does come to the United States every so often to do classes and courses. I believe he's coming to Eugene soon. He's coming to, I think, Chicago next year. Really, really sweet, genuine man with tons of knowledge and information. So I'll put his website below. And I did have a colleague that only did the home program. That is all she did. And that was enough for her body to start feeling better and start clearing. She did not even do the practitioner stuff. So this is very powerful work. So I will put his website on the show notes down below. And as always, if you have any questions, reach out to me anytime. If you want to find a practitioner, I know a bunch because he came to Utah. You can put in your zip code on the website and find a practitioner in your area. So it's pretty easy to find, pretty easy to get this work done if you're interested. So as always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, or you know someone that might benefit from the Perrin technique or the Perrin work, please share this with them. Give a review, share it on Instagram, follow me on social media. All these are ways that support my podcast and keep me producing and getting information out there. And it's deeply, deeply appreciated. All right, I'll see you next time. Next month, we are bringing on Senna. So excited to finally bring Senna on. She's my hair tissue mineral analysis practitioner. Fascinating stuff, and we'll see you.